9:02 right now, and thousands of runners are racing through downtown Atlanta as the 2025 Publix Atlanta Marathon Weekend is officially underway.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the final episode of the Sub 130 Half Marathon Training Series. Race day has finally happened. At the time of recording this, it's actually been about 3 weeks since the race. I've had some time to really relax, decompress, and just reflect on everything that happened. And so now I'm just gonna walk you through it, just like hour by hour, what I was doing on race day and ultimately how I was able to finish and like run the race. So yeah, without any further ado, let's just jump straight into it. So morning of the race, I was actually sleeping in my dorm because it was maybe about like a 5-minute drive from the start line. So I decided to just wait the night at my dorm, and then my dad would come pick me up. We could drive over together to the start, and then he could watch, and it'd just be a good time. So the night before races, I'm generally pretty restless, pretty anxious. I get excited for the race. I'm just like thinking about what I'm gonna be doing. So it's hard to sleep. So I double checked my alarm to make sure I could wake up bright and early at like 5 a.m. And so I went to sleep. I didn't sleep great. It was like decent compared to like what I normally get on like race nights. And I woke up and just something was weird. I looked at the clock, said 5 a.m., but I walked outside and I was looking at all the clocks just in the rest of the clocks in my apartment, and they all were an hour behind. It said like it was 4 a.m. And I was like really confused. I was like, what's happening? Did daylight savings time happen? Like this was like 2 weeks before daylight savings time actually happened. So I was really confused. I went back and I checked my phone and it said the same thing. Then I realized I had actually set my alarm, like my physical alarm clock, an hour ahead. So thankfully I didn't set it an hour behind. That would have been terrible. But yeah, even checking and double checking my alarms, I still was off somehow. So I just kind of laid in the bed for another hour. Couldn't really get back to sleep, but at that point it was just time to get up and start making breakfast. I had 3 waffles with some sunflower butter. That's like typically my go-to meal. And then I also had 2 scoops of G1M Sport, which is the carb and electrolyte mix from BPN. Shout out Nick Bear. But yeah, after that, my dad came and picked me up. We arrived at the race and I basically gave my dad the camera and got straight into my warm-up. I just did like a 1.5 miles, some drills, some strides, and this is where things started to go a bit wrong because I had told my dad to just wait for me with my backpack where I was gonna put all my gear because at that point it was cold. It was really cold in the morning. And so I was bundled up. I had a hoodie on, I had sweats, and I had some gloves on, I think, too. But I told my dad that after I warmed up, I was gonna give him the clothes. And so he was waiting in the tent. I went and warmed up. When I went back to the tent, he was not there. So I was calling him, and then I remembered he had put his phone in the backpack. So there was no way I was gonna reach him. So at that point, I was like, I'm basically on my own. I took off all my clothes in the middle of like the start field and bundled them up, tossed them into a nearby building, and at that point I was like, all right, it's just time to race. Thankfully, I was able to get my stuff after the race. But yeah, thank you, Dad, for going to the start line to record, but that definitely made me kind of nervous, not being able to get my clothes back to him. But anyway, at that point, I couldn't really worry about it. I was just really focused on running the race. And as I was standing like in my start wave, I took 1 goo gel, which is just like caffeine. It's got caffeine and carbs, just to give me that last little kick before the race started. And then the gun went off and we were ready to go. From the jump, I knew I wanted to take the first mile as like the slowest mile. It's just better that way to settle in. Even though I warmed up, I don't want to just be pushing it hard from the jump because it's always easier for me to speed up than to slow down into the pace. So that first mile, I went out at 6:54. And at this point in the race, there was still just like a lot of people all around me. The one thing with this race, this is probably like the biggest half marathon race in the city. So I knew there was going to be people in front and behind me and next to me like the whole time, which was good to have people to pace off of. But at the same time, I didn't want to be trying to run with people that were going faster or going slower than I wanted to go. I wanted to stay right at that 6:50 pace or faster. So first mile, 6:54. And then next mile was 6:43. So this was foreshadowing what was going to happen throughout the race in terms of the rolling hills. The course elevation, I had been studying it and I've been talking about it throughout the training that I've been really working on hills because I knew this race was going to be really hilly. It was basically rolling hills, bottoming out at around like mile 9, and then it was rolling hills climbing to the finish. And so for these first couple miles, it was like a lot of downhill. And so I went 6:43 for the second mile, 6:41 for the third, 6:42 for the fourth. And at this point, I was feeling pretty good. Basically, every mile marker we went to, I was just feeling relaxed. I was feeling calm. Again, there was people around me, and we were just kind of going stride for stride. And I was really just enjoying the race, taking it in. And I feel like I knew where I was the whole race. I'd studied the course, and even on some of my runs in the days before, I had scouted out portions of the course that I knew were going to be hard, and we'll come to that later. But yeah, after mile 4, I ran mile 5 in 6:47, mile 6 in 6:41, mile 7, 6:36, mile 8, 6:37. And again, these were like big downhill miles, but I knew that the race really hadn't even started at that point. I knew that once we reached Piedmont Park, which was the lowest point in the race at around like mile 9, I knew that's when things were gonna get hard. And so, yeah, after mile 7, 6:36, mile 8, 6:37, and that's basically when we reached the park. So once we reached Piedmont Park, I knew that's when the race was really going to begin. All the downhills from the first half of the race were basically over, and it was going to be rolling uphill to the finish. But even though this part of the course really crushed me in my last half marathon, this time I knew it was going to be different. I've been telling you guys since week 1 that hills were what we were focusing on throughout the training. I've really been focusing on building up the strength in the legs. I scouted this part of the course pretty heavily. I knew all the turns, where we were going, and I knew what type of elevation I was going to face. So after we left the park, I was hurting, yes, but I was confident. Basically mile 9, 6:44, mile 10, 6:28, one of my fastest miles of the race. This was when I was going through Georgia Tech's campus. And shout out to everybody that came out from the run club at Georgia Tech, and just other students that were out supporting. Really made a big difference to see familiar faces and just have people hyping us up on the course. But yeah, mile 11 through 13, these were the hardest miles of the race for me. Like I said, big hills. But that's when you really have to take a step back and think. Like every early morning that we got up to run, every late night that we went out to finish our mileage, every long run on a Sunday when we really just pushed it hard, even running these runs past 13.1 miles, like the 14 miler, the 15 miler, the workouts that we were doing, really just hammering that speed faster than race pace. When I started to hit those hills, like the final miles, I was starting to like ask myself questions like, are we gonna be able to finish this? Like, do we have what it takes? But I was able to keep answering yes to that because I knew that I had put in the work. I knew that we were prepared through all the training, all the miles. And so mile 11, I ran 6:46, mile 12, I ran a 7-minute mile, mile 13, I ran a 6:17 with the finish line in sight. Because in these races, you can start asking yourself these questions, you start doubting yourself, but when you see that finish line, yeah, it all makes sense. And so I closed out the final point 1 at 5 minutes 16. second minute per mile pace. And I'll just roll the clip.